歡迎各位周一長談嘅觀眾，我係你哋呢一集嘅主持人梁英年。如果你上個星期有睇周一長談嘅話咧，都會知道我今日咧係會繼續呢一個嘅話題嘅，就係 BC 省自由黨黨領選舉，同大家介紹咧佢哋7位嘅候選人。上個星期咧就同大家介紹咗係3位嘅候選人啦。咁另外4位咧我都同佢哋做咗訪問。而個呢個問題咧同之前嗰3位咧都係大概一致，希望咧可以係公平嘅對每一個嘅候選人啦。如果你未曾有心水嘅選擇嘅話咧，咁你就唔好錯過嚟緊呢4個嘅候選人咧自我介紹同埋點解佢要成為 BC 省自由黨嘅黨領。咁啊唔阻大家時間啦，我哋不如一齊睇下嚟。跟住落嚟，我要訪問呢一位嘅 BC 自由黨黨領候選人咧，就係 Sipos 㗎。佢現時咧就喺維多利亞，因為咧呢個 BC 省嘅天氣咧就真係千變萬化。本來咧佢就想坐直升機咧就飛過嚟坐喺我面前同我傾偈嘅，不過咧就係由於呢個天氣不測之風雲啊，佢要留翻喺 Victoria 嗰度咧係透過視像咧同我哋通話嘅。So thank you very much for joining our program through this video link.
Thank you, Ronald, for having me.
Yeah, I just explained to our listeners, the weather we cannot predict. It can change anytime, can change to any way it wants, so we can't predict anything, actually. We are just very small potato in this nature system.
Very true.
Yeah, you are seeking to be the next leader of the BC Liberal Party. Maybe you can just tell us a bit about who you are, your background, and why you think you are qualified to be the next leader of the BC Liberals.
Well, thank you for asking that question. It's a good question, Ronald. So I am an immigrant to this country. My family and I, when I was a small boy, escaped from communist Yugoslavia, so that was communist Europe. We ended up in a refugee camp in Italy for 3 years. And then we became very lucky, and I like to say we won the lottery of life. We ended up being accepted to come to Canada. So as a small boy, we arrived in Canada, in Halifax, actually, on a boat. Got on the train, and we ended up, our first place that we had to settle was Edmonton, Alberta. And then my father decided to move to northern Alberta, and we spent 5 years working in small businesses, and we had a big mink ranch. So it's compared to the weather here, the north is very, very cold.
So when you say cold, how cold is it?
Well, one time I was walking to school, it was minus 90 below, and a teacher saved me because I had a 2-mile walk to school on a country road up north, and the teacher saved me because I was sitting on the side of the snow. My parents didn't know that it could get that cold. So they called my parents to the school and said, you can't let him walk to school by himself when it gets this cold. So very cold.
Okay.
My father ended up making a decision to move to the West Coast to get away from that, the weather, and we ended up coming to Victoria in 1967. So we were an immigrant family. We worked 7 days a week trying to get ahead to make, with the opportunity that this country provides. I left home at 16. I had a bicycle and $7.50 in my pocket, and I started work on a construction site. I wanted to make my own way in life, and I had my own dreams and ambitions, and I worked in different areas of construction for 10 years. And then I started my own business, and I ended up working for a company just for a couple of years. We were in real estate development, and we did real estate development all across North America. And
now,
it was...
You've been in the real estate business. Maybe this is a time, just sorry about the jump in, is people have been complaining about the housing problem in BC. So you understand this problem?
I understand this problem, and we can talk about it in a little while, and I can give you some solutions.
Okay.
But I have been in business for myself for over 40 years. So this country has been very good to me. I understand, I have worked with municipalities. I have worked with community associations to build buildings, to do business. And so I understand how important it is to watch your money, how important it is to work with the people in your community to keep people satisfied and happy. And so I think I bring something most unusual than anyone else. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to be a politician. I'm here just to make government start working for the people.
But you want to be a leader of a major political party in BC, and that party may form the next government, and you may be the premier of British Columbia.
Yes, so and that's my intention.
It's all politics. Let's go back to this housing problem. A lot of people is now worrying about housing price keep on going up and up and up. It looks nice, never ending. So what is the real problem? How can we help those younger generation to have a home?
Well, Ronald, there's two problems in this case, right? But the main problem is, as you know, and everyone knows, supply and demand. If housing is something that is not available and you only have a few houses to sell, of course, it's worth more money. People pay more money because they can't find a house to buy. They can't find an apartment to rent. You know, when our children go to university, you can only get housing for 1 year. That is crazy. Then those students have to find housing outside in the marketplace, which takes away housing from people who are in the area. So the universities have lots and lots of land. It's free land. They own it, but they don't build university housing. My first step will be to start building university housing so that when students go to school, they can have university housing for their 4 years that they're in university at a minimum. So that's thousands of units can be built because the land is there, the money is available, the money is cheap. Secondly, our municipalities, Vancouver especially, and you know Vancouver and Burnaby, if you want to do a rezoning and you want to build something, how long does it take? We do some jobs and it takes 2.5 years to get approval from the government. I mean, they already have a plan that says we'd like to see a high-rise building here, we'd like to see housing here, but then they spend 2.5 years talking about it before they approve anything. And that creates a problem. We have to eliminate time, wasted time. We have to eliminate wasted money and bureaucracy and red tape. We have to get going. If a business did those kinds of things, Ronald, you know, we'd go broke. We couldn't survive without doing the job. We have to get the job going and build housing. We will build housing. And if we don't have enough land, we will take government land and build housing on government land and provide housing for people so they can buy affordable housing.
Now, all political parties want to do good for British Columbian and they want to bring in good policy. Then why you choose to support the BC Liberal? Why not the other party or even the governing NDP party? What is the difference between the Liberal and the NDP, for example?
Well, the difference is very simple. The NDP party is a labor party. It is a party that believes government should provide the jobs. So it employs people. The BC Liberal Party is a coalition of a whole bunch of parties. It's conservatives, it's liberals, it's Greens, and even NDP. We have NDP supporters that are supporting us. And so it's a coalition, but it works towards free enterprise to allow people to be successful, to build businesses, to create jobs. And that is the difference between the two parties. For instance, you know, if you are a company that is in construction, you own an electrical company, if the government is got a job that it wants done, you can't bid on that job unless you're a member of the union. So it should be equal opportunity for all. And the BC Liberal Party, which is a coalition of a broad range of citizens, it is the party that provides the opportunity and it allows you to have dreams and opportunity to build business, whatever it is you're doing. The NDP party is a party of taxation, restriction, and labor. And bureaucracy.
From what you just told us, it sounds like the BC Liberal Party has a broader base of supporters in BC. But
yes.
If you look at the last two elections, the support of the BC Liberal is getting less and less compared to the NDP. That is the reason why NDP can form the majority government. So why is that happening and how do you change that?
Well, the first election that Christy Clark won, she actually won the popular vote and she had more seats. But the NDP party combined with the Green Party had one more seat and they took power. And people, if you don't pay attention to people, if you don't serve the people, people get complacent. If you're in government for too long, people start forgetting how to do their job. They don't do their job well enough. I think like many people, I'm doing this, Ronald, because I also am disappointed with politics and politicians. I believe that government has lost its way. Government is there to serve the people, not for us to serve the government. And so what you have to do is you have to pay attention. The second election, the leader of the BC Liberal Party was just not charismatic enough. And he was too much, you know, he had 3 degrees, he was a doctor, a lawyer, and all these degrees, and he couldn't relate to the common man, the worker on the street. You have to look after everybody, and you have to be able to relate to the working person and the person in the boardroom and in business, and it requires being able to understand everybody, to work together. And if you forget that and you decide that you are too important or too busy, or you don't want to pay attention, or you decide you're going to start charging tolls for crossing a bridge that people have already paid for, people are not going to be happy with you.
Now, obviously, you have a very, very broad background. You came to Canada as a refugee, and then you start your own life when you were 16, and you work in different jobs, and you have your own business. And also, maybe people may not know you are a race car driver.
Yes, a champion driver.
Race car driver. So how could a race car driver become the premier of BC? So how are the two related?
Well, I'm a champion race car driver, and was into the Hall of Fame in Canada. And what it teaches you how to win. It teaches you how to do things that are special, things that are impossible at times, because you have to learn, when you compete against Americans, the best in America, you have to learn how to be the best. And you aren't successful the day one, but you change, you learn, you keep trying different things, new things, and you have to get better and better and better. And all these experiences teach a person how to do certain things and to be diversified, so that you can deal with a challenge. You can adjust and change and know how to get the job done, because you have to get the job done. There's only one winner, not two winners, one. So if you want to beat the best, you have to learn to be the best.
Oh, there's a lot of life lessons we can learn from a race car champion. But we are talking about the leadership race. So how could your supporter feel in that preferential ballot, so make sure you will win in this leadership race?
Listen, the hardest race to win, Ronald, is this race for the leadership, because I'm dealing with a number, 50,000 liberal members who are liberals, because they have to vote me in. To win the general election, for me, is easy, because I understand what it's like to work for a living on one side, and I understand what it's like to be in business. I can communicate with anybody on the street. I'm a refugee. I'm a self-made person. Nobody gave me anything. I earned it the hard way. I know how to work hard. So what you have to learn to do is you have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to understand what they need. And when you make a promise, you have to keep it. You can't make promises and break them. In government, too often, they go in there, they're politicians, they want a job, they want a pension. I'm not looking for a job. I don't need a pension. So I'm only there for one thing, to change the way government works, to make it work for the people and fix the problems we have, and stop the traffic jam. We are in a traffic jam all the time. Traffic jam, traffic jam. With me, there's going to be no more traffic jams. We're just going to make and empower people so that they can become the best they can be, that they can pursue their dreams, that they can achieve what they want to do. That's my job.
It sounds like you are someone that we can bump onto the street and we can start a talk right
100%.
there. You are an average guy on the street.
That's right.
But that said, if you didn't win this leadership race, so what is your next step? Will you continue to support the Liberal Party and do something to help the party to win the next election?
Yes, well, I am a supporter of our free enterprise. It's important. I'm in this race because I feel that if we don't, I felt that the rest of the contenders, the candidates that are running, nobody was getting traction. They weren't getting enough attention. And my worry is that if we have 7 more years of the NDP government, this province will be in very big trouble, because they will increase taxes, they will discourage business, they will hire more people in government, and our children are going to have to pay that debt. It's our money. The government needs to look after your money like you look after your money in your bank account. If you spend all your money in your bank account, you're going to be broke. This province, even though it's the best province in the country, will be in trouble if we allow them to stay there. So that's why I'm doing this. And I will always support free enterprise, business. But also make sure that we don't leave a normal person behind, because it's not just about one person being successful and leaving everybody else behind. This is a country that looks after people, that helps people who need help. But it is a country that offers opportunity. I think it's the best country in the world. I'm so lucky to be here.
Obviously, you have the vision and you have the drive, and you are a winner in your life. I hope all the best in this leadership race. Thank you for coming to join our program.
Thank you for having me, Ronald, and I look forward to being the next premier of this province.
Thank you for joining the program, Calvin. Some of our audience may know who you are because you have been a former MLA, a former deputy premier, and have been minister of different portfolio. But for people who are new to the BC Liberal Party, they may not know these older politicians. So who you are, Calvin?
Sure. So, look, I used to be a senior cabinet minister in the government of British Columbia. I was first elected in 2001 as one of the youngest cabinet ministers in the government of Gordon Campbell. I served in major portfolios, including the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, the Ministry of Health, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance. Those were the sort of the big ones that I'm well known for. Well, I was Minister of Transportation. I'm well known for a lot of the infrastructure that I built, and that includes the Canada Line, the Evergreen Line, the Sea to Sky Highway, the Portman Bridge, the Pitt River Bridge, all kinds of infrastructure all over the province. And I think that's also one of the main reasons why I'm running, Ronald, to be honest, because I think right now, at this particular point in history, our party needs a leader who's got the public sector experience, which I have, but I've also got private sector experience. I've spent the last 8 years in the private sector in a senior executive position with a company that's well known called Anthem Properties. We developed projects like Station Square in Metrotown, Georgetown in Surrey, lots of residential and commercial projects throughout the province. And I believe that right now at this time in our party's history, we need to have a leader who's got that private sector experience, but also the public sector experience. And among all the candidates that are running, and they're all good people, they all, I think, bring important attributes to the table. But I am the only one, it's important to point out, that has any cabinet experience, that has actually been in a government that's had to make big decisions and get big projects done. And I think that's important at this point because we're not just selecting the next leader of the opposition, but potentially the next premier of the province. And it's important that the public look at that person and know that they have the skills and the experience and the background to be able to be a good, effective premier.
So you was a minister of transportation. Now we had a former minister of transportation and now we have a low-hit highway. But I haven't seen any Falcon Way or Falcon Highway. But you just said you now work for a private sector for the last 8 years.
Yes.
And you developed a few big housing projects. Is it because of the people like you? We have this high housing price in British Columbia and you only represent those developers.
Well, no, I think this is what's really important for you and your listeners to understand is I think it is going to be so important to have a premier that actually understands the housing business and understands the market. Look, the thing about the NDP you have to understand is none of them have any business background. So when they get elected, they really don't know what they're doing. And we can see the evidence of that. In 2018, you'll recall, Ronald, that they introduced all these new taxes on the housing industry. The speculation tax, they introduced the vacant property tax, all these other taxes. And they said they were doing this to make housing more affordable. So now here we are 3 years later in 2021, and I simply ask all your listeners, has housing got any more affordable under the NDP? And of course not. In fact, it's gotten far more expensive because adding new taxes just adds new costs to housing. And that makes housing less affordable. And the other thing they did, which really bothers me, this is something I will never forgive David Eby, the Attorney General, for, and that is that they really tried to say that the problem was foreign Chinese buyers, that this was why our housing prices were going up. And that really bothered me because I think that fed into a very racist narrative against Chinese people. And it was not fair, it was not accurate. And I think that's important to point out because over the last 2 years that we've had COVID, there has been no foreign buyers, virtually none, buying residential real estate in our market in British Columbia, and yet prices still go up. So that's why having a premier like myself that actually understands the business world, understands the housing world, knows that we have to get more supply into our marketplace. And we have to make sure that we help first-time buyers get into the housing market. And I know I can do that because I understand the market. They don't.
Now, when I look at the background of all the candidates running in this leadership race, most of them are from the business background. Is it because of that the BC Liberal Party got less support in the last 2 elections, and NDP finally formed the majority government because more people support the NDP, and they are the people that are the grassroots people. So who are the Liberal supporters, and how do you get the support back so you can form the government next time?
Sure, I think that's an excellent question. It goes right to the very core of one of the reasons I'm running, because I do think our party has to be different. I think we got a lot of really great things done that we can be very, very proud of. We weren't perfect, of course. And particularly in the years after I left government in 2012, there were lots of decisions, not a lot. There was a few decisions government made that I, couldn't even support. But I think what's important for your viewers to know is that we got the big things right. We reduced taxes by 25%, personal income taxes. We reduced business taxes considerably to where we had some of the lowest rates in the country. And we got our budget balanced, and we hosted one of the greatest Winter Olympics in history. So I think there's a lot we can be very proud of. But in my view, we ignored some real challenges out there. Housing was one of them. I think daycare and childcare was another area that we ignored. And I don't think we did as good a job as we could have done on mental health and addictions. These are all issues that I have been focusing on my campaign from the day I launched my campaign. I wanted to make it very clear to our party members and to the public at large that while I am very supportive of low taxes and less red tape and regulation, because I think that's important for creating confidence and investment in the business world, it's also very important that we provide better outcomes in issues like childcare, mental health and addictions, and housing. And we can do that because we have better ideas, because they're informed by a background, especially in my case, of both public sector and private sector success. And I think that's important.
Now, you are one of the 7 candidates running in this election, and you are all excellent candidates from what I can see from your background. But why should people vote for Kevin Falcon instead of the other 6? You cannot be in the legislature after the election, even if you win and become the leader. You can't be in the legislature to speak on behalf of the party or even the people of BC.
Yeah, but that happens all the time, to be honest, Ronald. That's not a big deal. I mean, I was in the legislature for 13 years, from 2001 to 2012 when I announced my retirement, and then in 2013 I didn't run again for re-election. And being in the legislature is one part of your job. It's an important part, but it's not the most important part. Being leader of the party means we have to rebuild this party and our popularity in every part of the province. And so I can tell you, I will get in the legislature. There will be a by-election. I will run in a by-election, and I will get elected and get into the legislature. I'm not concerned about that. But we also have a lot of work to do with just what I call grassroots British Columbians. We've got a lot of work to do in the Asian community, a lot of work to do in the South Asian community to rebuild our support that we used to have, that we need to get back. And I need to travel to every part of this province and build this party to make it bigger and stronger and to make people excited to be part of it. So I would argue that that's my, one of the most important things that the next leader of the party has to do. Getting elected, getting into the legislature, yes, that'll be important. But we've got a great group of people over there right now doing some very good work in opposition with the BC Liberals. And I will join them at the appropriate time. But I think rebuilding this party is the most important thing.
The party chose to use the preferential voting system in this election. And even if you have the most support in the first round, you may not win in the last round if you cannot get the support of the supporter of the other candidate to put you in the second choice, third choice, fourth choice. So how will you tell your supporters to make sure you will win in the last round? And can you explain a little bit to those voters who are new to the system, who do not understand the importance of putting in the second one and the third one?
Right. So it's called a preferential ballot system. And what that means is until one of the candidates gets at least 51% of the vote, if they don't achieve 51% of the vote on the first ballot, then when you vote, you choose your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. You can go right down to 7 choices if you want. Or you could just pick one person. You can say, look, I like Kevin Falcon. That's all. I don't want to pick any more. You can do that too. But what happens is after the first ballots are counted, so the first choices are counted, if none of the candidates have 51% of the votes and therefore win, then what they do is they say, okay, now we're going to count the second choices. And then the second choices will be determined, as to whether, that will give any one candidate enough votes to form the majority of the votes necessary to become the leader. It's a little bit of a complex process. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of preferential ballots, but nevertheless, that's the system which our party uses. And of course, I accept whatever the results will be. But I do want to be clear, regardless of how the voting is done. My view is very simple. I'm just saying to the party, look, at this point in our history of this party, I think we do need new leadership. I think we have to have a leader that's got a reputation for getting things done, as I do. I think we need a leader that's not afraid to have big ideas and go out and defend those big ideas, even if they're controversial. And I also think we need a leader that understands the importance of making sure that we are a big tent party. And by that, Ronald, I mean, I want to ensure that we recruit outstanding Asian candidates, South Asian candidates, women into this party. I want to make sure that we represent the communities and we reflect the communities that we hope to represent. So to me, that's the most important reason I'm running. And I will accept whatever the members of this party decide. If they think I'm the best person in the league, great, I'm happy to do it. If not, that's not a problem. I'm quite happy to work in the private sector and continue supporting the party in whatever capacity I can, as I have always done, even over the last 8 years while I've been in the private sector.
Now, some people say they're exactly the same thing. So why are you running for the leadership race? And if you cannot win the leadership and you are not going to run for MLA to serve the British Columbian and go back to the private sector, so what is the point of just trying to be the leader and not an MLA?
Yeah, no, that's great. I love your questions. We should do more shows together. You're excellent. The reason is really quite simple. I actually, if you stand me on the stage with the other 6 leadership candidates, I have actually spent more time in the legislature as an elected MLA than all of them put together. Okay, so there's nobody that can say I have not done my bit as an elected MLA. I've been a senior cabinet minister. None of them can say this. I've been a senior cabinet minister in every critical role: finance minister, transportation minister, health minister, okay, and even cutting red tape minister. So I've done all of those things, and that's important. But you have to know this: I'm running to be the leader of this party. I'm not running to be an MLA again. I've done that. I'm running to be leader of the party. And I'm saying to the party members, if they want me to be the leader of this party, I am happy to and honored and would be really honored to take on this opportunity and rebuild this party from the grassroots up and make sure it's strong enough that we can go into the next election and win. But if I lose, if I'm unsuccessful, I'm not going to be running to just be an MLA again. I've been very clear about that with my colleagues and the people that have asked me that question. And I think that's the right way to be. Just be honest with people. I am doing this to be the leader. If the party thinks I'm the right person to be the leader, great. I will go and I will do a hell of a good job. But if I am unsuccessful, I'm going to be back in the private sector. But I will continue to support the party. I will support whoever the leader is unconditionally. I will help them raise money. I will help them build support. I will do all the things I did over the last 8 years while I was in the private sector trying to support my old party, even though I was no longer an elected MLA.
I'll ask you this last question. You mentioned about the Chinese candidates running in the next election. It looks like the NDP is more successful to attract candidates from the Chinese community and elevate them to be cabinet minister. How could you get more Chinese to run for the BC Liberal? And how could you elevate some of those successful people to be cabinet ministers?
Sure. Well, first of all, I had the honor of serving with such exceptional MLAs and ministers, like John Yap, for example, who is just outstanding. Teresa Watt, I think, is an outstanding MLA and is a really good example of the caliber of the candidates that we've been able to attract historically. But I will say this, we have to do, and I take on this responsibility, should I become leader of this party, I am going to focus like crazy on getting really good, accomplished members of the Chinese community and convincing them to run as candidates with the BC Liberals. And I believe I will be successful doing that. I think the leader has to take the lead on that because, most smart people don't want to run for politics, to be honest, because they're probably in a position like me where they're in the private sector and they're doing well in the private sector and they think, well, why would I give that up, to go into public sector? And the reason we do it is for public service. And yes, it is a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice for from your family. It's a sacrifice in some cases for many folks financially, but we do it because we want to build a better province and country. And that's the appeal that I would make to really outstanding Chinese candidates. But the other thing I'll say, Ronald, is this. I think that our party and our principles in our party are much, much more aligned with the Chinese community. The principles of free enterprise, of encouraging entrepreneurship, of encouraging success and supporting individuals to achieve their own successes in whatever manner of business they wish to go into, or whether it's law or accounting or engineering or whatever the case may be. The Chinese community is one of the most successful communities we've ever had. They've been a critical part of building the province of British Columbia. They've made outstanding contributions to the province of British Columbia. And I want to make sure that our party grabs some of those really outstanding individuals and encourages them to run and be candidates with us. Because I think we will be a stronger party and a better government when we go out and seek them. And the final thing I'll say about that is the difference between us and the NDP is we go out and we find outstanding talented individuals and really beg them to run. We don't say we're going to have a certain amount of people that have to run, etc., regardless of capabilities. We go out and we seek the very best and we encourage them to run with us. And that's something that I intend to do.
So I hope you can do that if after you win this leadership race. So thank you very much for coming to the program, Calvin, and all the best.
Thank you very much. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity. Ciao, ciao. Xie xie.
喺我面前咧有另外一位嘅 BC 自由黨黨領候選人，佢就係 Michael Lee 李耀華㗎啦。So thank you for coming to the program, Michael.
Well, thanks, Ronald, for having me on.
Now, a lot of people know about who you are. You've been in MLA for 2 terms. And I think there's a lot of new members because of this election race, this leadership election. Maybe you can tell some of those new people who you are and why you think you are qualified to be the next leader of the BC Liberal Party or maybe the next premier of BC.
Well, I am Michael Lee. I'm the MLA for Vancouver-Langara, first elected in 2017, re-elected in 2020. My parents came here from Hong Kong in the 50s and 60s. I'm born and raised in Vancouver. And went to UBC and started working with Youth at Risk in Chinatown. Have a long history of working in the community with children and youth organizations and immigrant social service organizations. Was a lawyer for 20 years, working with resource companies all over the province of BC, and have gone into politics to run for the leadership of the BC Liberal Party for the 2nd time. And I believe that I am best positioned to continue to broaden our appeal as a party, to expand our base, to win back the trust of British Columbians so that we can form government again for British Columbia.
Now, for a lot of people in the Chinese community, they can see, oh, our present BC government is the NDP. And they have quite a number of Chinese faces in their caucus as their member. But they don't see the same number of Chinese people in the Liberal Party. Maybe you can also tell some of your supporters or even our audience, who are the supporters of the Liberal Party when compared with the NDP? Why they should support you? Why they should support the BC Liberal?
Well, I think it's important to remember that in 2017 we had more seats elected in the Legislative Assembly. It was only because we fell short by 1 seat that the Greens supported the NDP to form a minority government. And under the 2020 election, we lost our vote share. It continues to decline. But there is a strong portion of British Columbia that believe in what we believe as BC Liberals in terms of strong fiscal responsibility and more compassionate leadership when it comes to healthcare and social services, concern for the environment. But the diversity of support amongst the BC Liberals is strong. I'm running to be a new face of leadership for our party and our province, and I think I represent the kind of broader diversity, including among many ethnocultural communities across the Lower Mainland, that we need to continue to appeal to and draw back in to support our party.
Now, this is the 2nd time you're trying to be the leader of the BC Liberal Party. You were very close the 1st time. This is your 2nd time. So is there anything you think you cannot do as an MLA that is and you can do it if you are the leader of the BC Liberal Party.
Well, I'm very proud to be the MLA for Vancouver-Langara. It's a riding that goes from Granville to Fraser, 33rd to Marine Drive in South Vancouver. I've very much been privileged and honored to be representing that riding, working on transportation projects, housing projects for seniors and children and youth and education. So as a local MLA, we each have our roles to play in that. But as a leader of a political party, it gives us the opportunity to really make change, to set a new course and a direction for our province, which is what I want to do. And also to rebuild the political organization from the ground up to encourage that level of support that you talked about just now in terms of appealing to a broader diversity of British Columbians as well.
Now, so what was wrong in the last two elections that the BC Liberal Party is getting less support from British Columbian compared with the NDP? Can you pinpoint what's wrong with it?
Well, I think that what happened in 2017, particularly between 2013 and 2017, is in the eyes of the voters, our focus became too narrow. We talked a lot about the importance of jobs, the economy, balanced budgets, AAA credit ratings, very important in terms of how you steward the financial responsibilities and framework for our province. But also it's more than just that, of course, and BC Liberals do care. And I think that in the eyes of the public, it started to erode. I also think that trust has eroded as well. That's the reason why this time around, when I'm running my leadership campaign, I've very much focused on the need to restore trust with British Columbians and our party, and that's why I've set out 5 core values: accountability, compassion, community, inclusivity, and integrity, that are 5 core values I believe as BC Liberals we believe in and we should be very clear on in order to rebuild our party.
Now, when I look at all the background of the 7 candidates running in this BC Liberal leadership race, you're all very well qualified. It looks really good on paper at least. But why should people support Michael Lee instead of the other 6 candidates? You're all very qualified.
Well, I believe I'm best positioned to broaden the appeal of our party, to restore trust for our party, as I've been saying here on this interview. But also, I am the one MLA in the Lower Mainland that was able to increase my vote share in the last election in order to, while the BC Liberal vote share continued to decline. I'm one of 5 MLAs in Burnaby, Surrey, Vancouver, and Richmond now, today. And we've decreased from 10 in 2017. So I believe I have the abilities to continue to appeal to a broader diversity of voters in our province, including in the Lower Mainland, to regain government, and that I combine my skills and my experiences both in the community, working from the ground up with the organizations I talked about earlier, as someone who's worked in business and law for over 2 decades, having worked in government, in the federal government as a political staffer for Kim Campbell back in the days when she was Minister of Justice, and now as MLA for 4.5 years, both as the Justice critic and the Transportation critic, and having led successfully our caucus team to defeat proportional representation in this province, and it resulted in a referendum where we got a 60% vote.
Now, you have been an MLA for 2 terms, and you have been a member of the BC Liberal Party for a long time, so you have the inside knowledge. Some people said the NDP are more ethnic community friendly. That is the reason they have more ethnic people supporting them. Is it true? Is it because the Liberal Party is not as ethnic friendly as the NDP?
I disagree with that. I wouldn't be a member of this party if I believed that. I know that myself and many members of our team, including Teresa Watt, for example, Andrew Wilkinson, our past leader, have spent a lot of time working with and building relationships across many ethnocultural communities in our province. We continue to do that. I think it's going to be a real focus for the next leader of our party to ensure that that's the case. And I intend to be a new face of leadership for our party and our province.
Now, this election race is using this preferential voting system. Could you explain to our audience and how you talk to your supporter? How do they fill in that ballot to make sure you win?
Well, you have 7 choices as a member of our party. You need to register to vote by February 1st, and then you can vote online from February 3rd, 4th, and 5th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So hopefully you'll do both of those things and ensure that you do have an opportunity to vote. To support me, to become the leader of our party and to have the opportunity to run for premier, you need to vote for me as your first choice. After that, it's up to you as to whether you vote as your second choice or third choice, some of the other very strong candidates that are running for leadership of our party.
Now, so if people who are not thinking of putting you as the first choice, will you ask them to put your name there as the second choice or third choice? Is there any use of that?
Yeah, certainly I would welcome that. As you mentioned at the top, last time around I had the most number of members voting for me, but it's not a popularity contest. It's a point system, 100 points per riding, 87 ridings. And so you get down to successive rounds of voting when the bottom person out of the 7 will drop off and his or her supporters will have the opportunity to be counted if they selected somebody as their second or third choice in the next round. And so that's why when we got down to the 4th round last time, I dropped off as the number 3 person, and Andrew went on to get past Diane Watts and become the leader of our party. So we may have a similar situation because it will be a very close race, I believe. It's a very competitive one. So I would very much welcome people's second or third choice support, because that will be important in further rounds as we get down to the end of this process.
So the voters can put in just one name, or they can put in all 7's name in a preferential order?
They can certainly select all 7, that's right.
So it's important, just like last time, you have the most at the first round, but you may not win it at the last round.
Yes, yes.
So
it's
this
very
is
important to make your selections, it is. And so that's why your program is very good to be able to get to know the candidates, even at this juncture with less than 30 days to go.
Now, I'll just ask you this, if you couldn't win this leadership race, will you continue as an MLA to serve the people in Vancouver?
Yes, very much so. I very much enjoy and relish this opportunity to continue to serve the constituents of Vancouver-Langara and to have a role to play within the BC Liberal Caucus. I want to help rebuild the party, regardless of who the leader is for the next election.
So we'll see you around.
Yes.
You will not just wash your hand and walk away
No,
if you couldn't win this race.
I'm very much committed to this party and the rebuild of our party.
So thank you very much for coming to the program, Michael.
Thanks, Ronald.
喺我面前咧，又有另外一位嘅 BC 自由黨黨領候選人，佢係其中唔係其中添，係唯一啦，一位女性候選人，7個裏邊得1個女性咋。咁不如我哋一齊咧去睇下呢一位嘅候選人 Renee Merrifield。Thank you for coming to the program, Renee. I was explaining to the audience there are 7 candidates in this leadership race. You are the only female. So is this something that shows Liberal is not balanced in their gender?
Well, I think it shows that we have work to do on diversity. I think we need to really focus on making our party and making sure that our next generation of MLA candidates represent the greater diversity that is British Columbia right now.
Now, a lot of people may not know who you are because you are not from the Lower Mainland. You represent the island as an MLA. So people may know you from the island, but not in the Lower Mainland. Can you just spend a little time to explain to us who you are, why you think you are qualified to be the next leader of the BC Liberal Party?
Sure. I actually will just qualify or clarify that I'm actually from the interior.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. But I serve right now as the Kelowna Mission MLA and newly elected, so elected just since October. And so how am I qualified? Well, I've been a business person for 25 years. I've been serving my community as a business leader, but I've been serving all the way across Canada. I've had national positions, I've had provincial positions, I've built my business across Western Canada as well, and taken it from basically $0 all the way to a multi-billion-dollar organization. So I definitely have some truly great experiences when it comes to organizational strategy, when it comes to how businesses, how corporations, how organizations, how nonprofits, how even political parties are built something from nothing and definitely expanded into growth. I also have a tremendous amount of experience in in politics. I served on the Interior Health Authority Board. I served nationally on 2 different national committees, and I served on the Premier Clark's Economic Council. So I certainly have served across the board on many different initiatives, and certainly where it came to understanding policy and how policy affects people, how policy affects business, and how policy can make or make life more difficult for British Columbians.
Now, at the beginning of our interview, we talked about the equality issue, the gender equality, the race equality, and a lot of this kind of issue. Then why you joined the BC Liberal and instead not the NDP? So what is the difference between the BC Liberal and the BC NDP, and why you support the BC Liberal, and who are their supporters?
Well, for me, I support the BC Liberals because they are a right-wing party. You know, they're the big tent on right of center, which for me is a comfortable place. You know, my heart, my social issues, they're on my left. But I definitely have a lot of fiscal responsibility that I believe government needs to hold, and that's firmly on the right of the spectrum. So definitely believe that the BC Liberals are a great fit for who I am and for what I'm about, but also I support them wholeheartedly in that endeavor. I would say that our diversity has fallen in this last election, but we had the first female premier. We also had the longest serving female premier across Canada. And during her 6 years as premier, she was very effectual in making sure that diversity was front and center. And at that time, we had more females, more diversity than any other political party in BC history. So I do believe that we have a past and a history of acknowledging and of supporting diversity. I do think we've fallen behind in that in the last election, but I believe it's something that our new leader, and as the leader, I will definitely spearhead forward.
Now, we just told our audience that you are a first-term MLA. That means you are not that experienced compared with some other MLA or some other people running in this race. Then why do you think you are experienced enough, and just after a year and a half as an MLA, you want to be the leader of one of the major parties in BC?
Absolutely. You know, not all experience in politics is good experience. Experience in politics can give you a lot of baggage that I don't have. I have a fresh face, I have a fresh foot forward, and I'm definitely someone that's going to be out of the box thinking and is going to bring new ideas. I've led companies in over 11 different industries, 40 different companies. So I have a tremendous amount of diverse experience when it comes to understanding the industries that propel BC forward, in understanding the people of BC. I have worked in every single quadrant of our beautiful and amazing province, and I have led organizations into success. That's experience that not everyone has. In fact, some of our candidates have experience of earning less and less and less votes all the way throughout their duration as MLAs. So for me, I've got success and experience making organizations successful, and I absolutely believe that that is applicable experience when it comes to the party and into the province and in leading the province forward.
And one of the major issues in the debate or in the discussion regarding this leadership race is how to renew the BC Liberal Party and how to make it winnable in the next provincial election. So what is your strategy? How are you going to lead the BC Liberal to win the next provincial election?
Well, you got to get grassroots. You have to get into communities, into neighborhoods, and get people excited about what the future could hold and about where we could go together. We need a laser precision focus when it comes to moving forward, when it comes to our agenda, when it comes to how we're going to govern, and we need to be problem solvers. We need to hear the issues that people have and then build the solutions that will take us forward and that will solve those problems. I don't think that this government has been successful. In fact, the NDP government has failed on almost every promise that they made. And I think that we can do better. I think that the BC Liberals are a party that knows how to get things done and is full of MLAs with past experiences that are absolutely applicable to how we can move British Columbia forward. So I'm excited about the future, and I think that excitement is contagious, and we need to get all of British Columbia excited, whether they're on the Lower Mainland, whether they're in the north, the interior, or on the island. We need to make sure that people are excited about where we can go and where we can go together.
Now, there are 7 candidates running in this leadership race, and I look at all your background. You are all very well qualified, and you are one of the 7. So what is your advantage in addition to you are the only female in this election race?
Well, I'm going to call that an advantage. I'm going to say that being a female definitely allows me to stand out. It allows me to stand proud. It allows me to have a large and vocal voice. But it also, I'm the one with the most experience. I'm the one with the most leadership experience of any of the candidates. No one has the breadth of diversity of experience that I have. No one understands British Columbia the way I understand British Columbia because of the different experiences that I've had. And it truly is across all of the quadrants. You know, I've worked with Indigenous First Nations. I've worked with female groups. I've worked with organizations that are publicly traded companies. I've worked with organizations that are and I'm saying and using the words "worked with" because that's how I believe and how I approach leadership positions. But I've led these organizations. I've been either on a board, chairing, vice chairing these organizations forward. So nobody has the experience that I do, and not one of these other candidates is a woman.
So obviously you were the leader of those organizations, but you choose the term to work with them. That is something that shows who you are. And now in this election race, some people may be new to the BC Liberal Party, and they may not understand the system, how to get the leader using this preferential ballot system. Could you explain to our viewers a little bit about this system and how to make sure they vote for you so you can win?
Absolutely. So every single member gets to vote for in order of where they would like to see that leader. So they get a first choice, a second choice, a third choice, a fourth choice, and they can keep voting all the way down to 7 if they choose. Some people will vote for 1. Some people will vote for all 7 and put us on a ballot together. But if your first choice is not successful, then your second vote will be counted towards whoever you've put as second. So I would just encourage everyone to make sure that you fill out as many as you possibly can, and make sure that I'm on that ballot. I'd love to be your first choice and to be number 1 on your ballot. But if I'm not number 1, I'd love to be your number 2.
Now, I think we all agree this leadership race, this campaign is a long one. Over a year long. So what is your experience so far? Is it positive, negative? And will you continue even though if you cannot win this leadership race, will you continue as an MLA to serve the people in Kelowna Mission?
Absolutely, I will continue. I'm in for the long haul, so this is not short term for me. This is my service. It's my service to my community. I found a tremendous amount of success in the business world, and this is my give back. This is how I can serve my community in the best way possible. So absolutely, I will be continuing. But having said that, it has been a tremendously long race. And I would also say that it's long because we were faced with a pandemic, and that pandemic is still with us. And, as I speak to you from Kelowna, it's unfortunate because, our intention was that January we were going to be on the road for the entire month. So it's been difficult. And I don't minimize that difficulty on the people of British Columbia. We've had floods, we've had heat domes, we've had forest fires and a pandemic, and it's been difficult, and we've all been through a lot, and it's not surprising that the leadership race isn't top of mind for everyone. And ultimately, it's a great opportunity for those that are members to get to decide the future and the fate of our province.
So all the best. Hope you success in this election race. Thank you for joining the program, Renee.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
大家咧都睇過 BC 省自由黨黨領選舉7位嘅候選人自我介紹，同埋咧我問佢哋一啲嘅問題啦。咁啊，從呢個問題當中咧，我都係希望佢哋咧就盡量發揮佢哋自己有啲咩嘅特別之處，點解佢合資格成為下一任嘅 BC 省自由黨嘅黨領。咁而呢個人咧亦都會有機會咧係成為 BC 省下一任嘅省長嘅。咁希望咧已經有咗一個心水選擇啦。咁所以如果你係 BC 自由黨嘅黨員咧，你就唔好錯過呢個機會咧，去選出一個嘅黨領。而呢個人咧就有可能咧成為 BC 省省長嘅。咁啊，只係仲有大概1個星期嘅時間到，喺2月1號咧，佢哋就話咧會有一個嘅網上嘅登記，讓佢哋嘅黨員咧可以攞到一個嘅密碼。然之後咧就喺網上進行投票。大家頭先都聽到啦，佢哋每一個都介紹咗呢個 preferential ballot， 即係點解叫做咧係有分排名1、2、3、4、5、6、7呢個嘅選票。希望咧你知道係點樣去投票啦。如果唔知道嘅話咧，咁你就問翻你心目中嗰個候選人啦，佢哋嘅網址啊，佢哋嘅聯絡資料咧，大家喺網上咧都好容易揾到㗎啦。咁希望咧到時我哋好快就會知道邊一個係下一任 BC 省自由黨嘅黨領啦。